Hey everybody, Mr. Fix It here again with another DIY video. So in this one we're going to be working on this Nissan Versa, and we're going to be replacing the engine mounts. So here's what I'm talking about. First one is this stabilizer, or whatever they like to call it, mount, torque mount, or they got different names, but you can find it online as a upper engine mount. And then this is the actual main engine mount right here, and then we have another one on the bottom. It's this guy right here. So this mounts to the K-frame or subframe of the car, and then to the bell housing of the transmission, I believe. But yeah, we're going to be replacing all these three mounts. So if you like how to learn how to do it yourself and save yourself some money, go ahead and stick around. And if you do like the video helpful and it did save you some money, please consider subscribing, hitting the notification, the bell, and the like button for me. So let's get to it. Okay, so first things first, it's nice and helpful if you have some of these drive-on ramps that you can just lift the front of the car so you can work underneath and use the jack to support the engine while disconnecting the engine mount. If not, you're gonna have to jack up the car on each side, put on jack stands, and then you can use the jack to support the engine so you can remove the engine mount. First, I'm gonna remove this engine cover. So that's a 10 millimeter. You got the two bolts right up here. Yeah, and then it just goes on the bottom like that. Now I gotta fish the other bolt that I just lost. Okay, to remove the upper mount, torque mount, is two bolts, one right here, one right here. Both of them are 18 millimeters. So we just hit this one with the ratchet. If you got a breaker bar, that'll be probably easier to get this one out. And then for this one, we can just use the impact and extension. And that'll do it. So this is the easiest one to remove, and you don't have to support anything. You can just do it in place. So this is how it comes out. You can see our old one is pretty much shot. Next, what we're going to be removing is the main mount, which is down here. So this one is the lower, or 16 millimeter. Make sure. So yeah, 16 millimeter right here. The sun shining in my screen, so I can't really see what I'm filming. But there's the other one, is back here. You can get to it between the AC pipes with an extension. It drops directly onto the bolt. So you can go ahead and undo the three bolts, and the mount is still connected to the engine and is still sitting on the frame. So even by removing these three bolts, the engine is not going to drop. But make sure you go ahead and support the engine from the bottom. So I'm going to undo the bolts, and then I'm going to support the engine, and we're going to move on to the next step, which is I'm going to be removing this whole bracket, which this mount actually bolts to, and this bracket bolts to the cylinder head of the engine. Okay, so go ahead and get the three 16 millimeter mounting bolts for the mount that bolt to the frame off. I need a longer extension for this one because I'm hitting the frame. Okay, so get the longer extension and give me the clearance I need. So with the 3 bolts removed, now I can jack up the engine a little more, but I already have it supported. I already put the jack. I'll show you where. Right here on the bell housing and the block, right where this lowest mounting bolt is, so it's not gonna hurt anything. And now I'm gonna jack it up just a little bit until I see the engine mount starts lifting off the frame. Okay, so this should be good. Okay, so I have the jack on the bottom, and now we're gonna remove these other 4 mounting bolts that go on this bracket. As you can see, there's one right here, this one on top, this one, and this one. So it's 4 total that hold the bracket, and then the mount actually has got a long bolt that goes into this bracket. So we're just going to remove the whole thing altogether. Okay, so all 4 bolts are loose now. You just go ahead and remove the whole assembly. So here is the engine mount with the bracket, and now we're gonna remove this bolt right here, replace the mount, and drop everything back in place. Okay, so with the bracket removed, make sure you inspect the threads, because you can see this one was a little messed up. I had to use a little metal pick and clean out the thread. Somebody replaced this mount at one point and they over tightened the crap out of it, and this is aluminum, so it started messing up the thread right at the end. So I cleaned it up, and now I checked it with the bolt and make sure everything threads on and spins freely, so we're good to go back in. But just a little tip, check the threads, because if there is pieces and the thread is messed up, you put the bolt in, then you can cross thread it and you can pretty much trash this bracket. Okay, so we have the new mount right here. The bracket, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start it out and tighten it by hand so I can drop the whole assembly back in and then give it a final tightening when it's in place. Okay, here we go. Start these out by hand too. Lift the engine up a little, get it to line up, and start them up. Okay, so far everything is good. I'm gonna snug them down with the impact. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just torque them by hand. Okay, so these 4 are already torqued down. Now we're gonna drop the actual mounting bolts that go that connect the actual mount to the frame of the vehicle. This one in the back is a little tricky, but if you got fairly small hands, you can do it. If not, you probably gonna have to use a magnet or something to get it started. So again, these are 16. Just hit them with the impact. I'm gonna give them a final turn just to check all by hand. This should be more than enough, but I like to just check with the wrench anyway. Well, see, this one didn't. So that's why I do it. Just finish them off. Okay, and then the last one is the actual mounting 19mm, the one that connects the engine mount to the bracket. So that's a 19mm. Alright, and that should do it. It's not going anywhere. Then we can go ahead and replace the upper torque mount. There you go. This one just goes in like that. And this drops in. And then you can just line up the front bolt. Let me drop the engine back down from the jack. Let's see. Okay. And I can just pull on the engine so you can start the bolt. And this one was 18. Go ahead and tighten these two. This one's tight. Okay, so that's it for the top mount. Now we're going to move on to the lower mount and replace that, because somehow the one that's actually on this vehicle is bent right here in the middle. I'll show you in a second. So I already got these two bolts out. There's one right here that goes into the transmission. There's another one that holds this other bracket. I just cracked this one loose. And then the other one is back here that goes through the subframe right there. And it goes all the way through. So yeah, you can see this mount. I don't know what happened here, but this mount is bent. As soon as the bolt came out, the whole engine transmission went back in place and went forward. So this one, you just fish it out like so, and then we put the new one in and we tighten it down. Right, so let's pop the new one in like that. And I'll get the rear part in first and get it started. Bolted to the frame, and then we can move the engine back. And by the way, you don't need to support anything for this one because it's a torque mount, so the engine transmission is still being held on each side to the main mounts that sit on the frame of the car. So yeah, you can remove this without actually supporting the engine. But if you want to feel safer, it's up to you if you want to put another support. Okay, I'm gonna need my other hand so I can push this engine back and then put the bolt through. So give me a sec. I had to use a pry bar actually to stick it under here and then give me a little more leverage to push the engine transmission backwards so I can get this bolt to line up. But nothing to stress about. I was expecting that. So yeah, pretty much straightforward replacement, nothing too crazy. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the video here. So if you did like and enjoy the content, it was helpful to you, helped you save some money, consider subscribing, hitting the bell notification, and hitting the like for me. And also you can drop a comment down below. Let me know if I did a good or bad job, what you think I can improve on. I'd like to hear from you. Alright, as always, thank you for watching. Stay safe, be blessed. See you soon.